Hi guys.
Good evening.
Good evening. We are here today to film another True Hollywood Thursday. And we decided to film one on, we've been kind of going down the rabbit hole of like conspiracies and stuff like that. A little bit of celebrity death. So we decided to do our research this week on a pretty big and notorious, if you will, celebrity death.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Who are we doing this week, dog?
We are doing
Mr.
Notorious
B.I.G.
Biggie
AKA
Smalls.
Biggie Smalls, a.k.a. Christopher Wallace.
Biggie
Smalls.
Whatever you want to call him. He is the Notorious B.I.G.
Yes, he is.
But he was born Christopher George
Latour Wallace. To his mother, Valletta Wallace, who was a Jamaican immigrant, and she
Yes.
worked as a preschool teacher.
Yeah.
His father, I think his name's pronounced Selwyn,
Yeah. Latour.
was a welder and a politician. Which those are pretty interesting. That's a pretty interesting combination.
Yeah, a little bit.
And but he ended up leaving them at the round when Chris was 2.
Yeah. Are we that familiar? We're gonna call him Chris?
We'll call him Chris.
We're
I
gonna
was
call
calling
him
him all my notes say Biggie.
Me too. He was born in the Brooklyn borough of New York City.
On May 21st of 1972.
Yes. I saw a documentary with his mom, and she
I
was
did
basically
too.
like, she loved her child.
God,
so,
she
so
loved that
much.
kid so
She was
much.
basically what she said. The reason why the reason why his father left was because she had so much love for her son that she could not love him. Like, all of her love was for her son. So that's kind of why his dad left.
I feel it. I love
Yeah.
my son more than life.
I love my kid more than life too. She is my world, you know?
Uh-huh.
Basically, it was just him and her, and they lived in Brooklyn, in actually a relatively dangerous neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understood.
She worked a few jobs to provide for them.
Yeah.
She did say that she worked her ass off. She said they weren't rich by any stretch, but she worked to keep food on his plate and to keep clothes on his back. That was her main focus, was her baby.
Yes, she needed to provide for him because it was just her and him.
Yes, and she said they weren't wealthy, but they were definitely wealthy in heart, which
Yeah.
I thought was really sweet. You
Yeah.
know that woman loved her son.
She
If you've seen
absolutely.
anything, like the MTV Music Video Awards, when you would bring her and Tupac's mom out, that woman loves her son.
Yeah.
So she did work 2 jobs to provide for him. He was surprisingly, I thought this was an interesting little fact. When he came out as a baby, he weighed 8 pounds, which is not that big.
Yeah.
Of a baby.
Yeah, that's kind of like a normal sized baby, considering the fact that he was, what, like 6'3" when he was an adult?
Yes,
and
and
like
weighed
between
like
300 and 360 pounds, depending on
I saw
which,
380.
380 even. Like, that is a big guy,
That's
you know?
a big man. Yeah.
He actually earned the nickname Big by the age of 10.
Uh-huh. Kids would make fun of him a little bit
Yeah.
because of his size and because of his big old thick glasses he wore as an attempt to correct his lazy eye.
Yeah.
Which, if I remember right, it never fully got corrected, but it kind of became a part of, like,
His image,
him.
like, that was, you know, that's him.
I did find it pretty interesting that he was sent to a religious school. Was it a Catholic school?
I think so.
And he was awarded a lot in English, which, you know,
Yeah.
makes sense that he went on to
He was
become a pretty great
really
lyricist.
smart. Yeah, I saw later on in his when he was a teenager and he was writing rhymes, they were saying things like he would use the word hypothesis and he would rhyme it, and like his friends were just like blown away by these lyrics that he would just come up with.
Yeah, well, he
He was
was
a very smart guy.
Yes.
Very smart.
He did get into rap at a young age to entertain people on the street, but part of being on the street was that he was also dealing drugs.
Yes, indeed. And he was actually doing this while his mom was working. So she
Yes.
said that she didn't actually know about this until
No.
he was older, because she had a rule that he was not allowed to leave
The front porch.
their front porch.
Yep, she was trying to protect him and keep him away.
Yeah, because she knew her neighborhood was dangerous. So she was very protective, but he ended up actually joining You know, joining in with the other kids dealing drugs on street corners around the age of 12.
Although I heard a number that he was bringing in about $2,000 a week.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
that is a lot of money.
So
I wonder how he explained that to his mom.
I don't know. He just said that he was, like, I saw interviews with him where he talked about the fact that, like, he was a hustler. That's just what he did.
Yeah, he learned a lot from it, and he was just like, I wouldn't change it because I learned a lot. It's like, I don't want to do it anymore, but I definitely learned a hell of a lot from it.
So while he was doing that and while he was rapping on the street, he actually became, like, a part of a group called I don't want to look at my notes, Old Gold Brothers and the Techniques.
Nice.
Yep. And there were a lot of people who were interviewed, and I saw a lot of videos of him doing it, rap battles on the street.
He was honing his skill.
Yes, he was.
He was actually really good.
And he tried to explain to his mom, he's like, she had said that the music that we're making, the music that you call noise, that music is going to make us money one day.
So she laughed. She was just like, you're crazy, basically.
He essentially found his calling, is what he claimed
Yeah.
and what he thought. So at the age of 17,
He dropped out of high school.
he dropped out of high school.
He essentially got more involved in, to provide for himself, he got more involved in, like, you know, dealing drugs, weapon
He actually
dealing.
got picked up on that
Yes, he did.
for a weapons charge I think it was at the age of 17 or right around there.
Yeah.
And he got 5 years of probation and then was later picked up for dealing crack cocaine,
Oh, fun.
and he got 9 months in jail.
Yes, indeed. But once he got out, he recorded a demo called Microphone Murderer.
Yup.
That was basically just recorded for fun. Like, it was just kind of, he was messing around with his friends and recorded this demo, and
In someone's basement, and it got into the hands of a DJ in New York by the name of Mr. C,
yes.
right? And that guy started promoting it heavily.
Uh-huh.
He had connections to the Source magazine.
And Biggie was featured as one of their unsigned
Unsigned hype.
yeah. Basically it was like these people are, you know, they're unsigned talent, like they're fantastic. And so the demo then ended up making its way to Uptown Records,
Where, you know,
A
a
little
relatively unknown producer.
You guys may not have ever heard of him.
His name was like Sean or something? Sean Combs?
So Puffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Sean Puffy Combs at
Yes.
the time. Who's gone on to change his name like 18 times.
18
whatever.
times, so I don't know what he is.
He goes by, I think it's Diddy now.
Is it Diddy?
Or P. Diddy. I don't know.
You know, fun fact though. Ooh, that's a lot of powder. Fun fact, I had heard that Biggie was the one who gave him the nickname of P. Diddy.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah. Which I thought was kind of fun. So, obviously Puffy wanted to basically meet him. For the purposes of this video and the time frame, we'll be referring to him probably as Puffy. Because that's who he was then.
Yeah.
So he wanted to meet with him, and, you know, as soon as he met him, they signed. It was basically like, yes,
Yeah.
you're signed. So he
The
signed
interview
it.
I saw with one of his friends was like, he was so nonchalant about it because he came in, he did a few bars for Puffy, and then he was like, I could have an album out for you by summer, and that Biggie was like, yeah man, that's cool, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
So chill about everything.
I wonder if he was freaking out on the inside.
Probably. This is what he wanted.
So he was featured on a song by a group called Heavy D and the Boys on their album Blue Funk. Yeah.
Pretty confident we can't say the name of the song.
yeah, pretty
just for the
confident.
sole purpose of we're not horrible people.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you want to look it up, feel free.
Absolutely.
We are not going to repeat it. And then in mid-1993, Sean Puffy Combs was actually fired
From Uptown Records.
Yes, indeed.
But he went on to form a little record company on his own called No Daisy, not called that. Bad Boy Records.
Bad Boy Records.
And guess who went with him?
And who was his very first client, essentially. Biggie signed on the exact same day that Bad Boy Records was founded.
So he followed him, went with him. And
Yes,
around
he
the
did.
same time, his
ex-girlfriend. So he had had a
Her
long-term
name was
girlfriend.
Jan or something.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was Jan. Had been pregnant, and around that same time as this whole transition from Uptown Records to Bad Boy Records happened, Jan gave birth to their daughter Tiana.
So he wanted to give his daughter the best life possible.
Absolutely.
He was essentially going to promise her the world just as long as she would complete her education. And he was even quoted as saying that if his mom had made a similar promise to him, which, you know, he loved his mom a lot and all that, and she knows that she worked as hard as she could, but he probably would have finished high school too.
Yeah, and that was basically like his mom had gone to college, and that was part of her issue with him dropping out of high school to pursue music, because number one, she didn't really think that he'd be able to make a viable career out of it, and number two, because she had gone to college and she wanted that same kind of success for her son, and so he wanted to kind of continue the importance of education with his own daughter, because it seemed like he wished he had finished high school.
So he actually, behind Puffy's back,
Because money hadn't come in yet.
No,
That's
it was
something
slow.
to point out. Money was very slow to come with this, with the record deal. So
So behind his back, he continued selling drugs.
selling drugs, and I think also weapons, because that was a big part of what he was doing as well. But Puffy found out,
Made him stop.
absolutely put his foot down. You can't do it. It was just after he made him stop that he actually took on the moniker of Notorious B.I.G.
Yep, and that's
He originally wanted to be Biggie Smalls, but Biggie Smalls was taken by another rapper.
Interesting.
Yeah. Apparently
That's so funny because nobody associates anyone but him with Biggie
Right,
Smalls.
he's Biggie
So it's
Smalls.
just,
Everybody
I didn't
knows.
even Google anything but Biggie Smalls, and then he was the first search to come up. So
Yeah. So apparently, sorry for that rapper, but
sorry, bro.
original Biggie Smalls.
Yes.
Sorry. He was featured and actually started and was kind of his first taste of prominence of receiving accolade for his talents was a remix of Mary J. Blige's "Real Love."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have it in my head that I'm looking for real love. Right? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. And that song actually peaked on number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Yes, so that was his first taste of pretty big success. He continued to go on and feature with Mary J. Blige on several songs.
Oh yeah. No, they worked together often.
And then that same year during a photo shoot, he met one of Bad Boy Records' up-and-coming R&B singers. Her name is Faith Evans.
Faith Evans.
I saw part of the interview with her, which
Oh my
I'm gonna guess
gosh.
we both watched, like the behind the music or whatever.
Yeah, behind the music,
VH1.
VH1 behind the music.
Yeah.
She's just so, like, you can tell she absolutely loved him the way she
Loved
talks about him.
him.
She talked about how he asked her for a ride home or the other way around.
He asked her for a ride home. Yeah.
And she just said that she was cracking up the whole time because he was so funny. He was constantly telling jokes.
She said he was warm, and there was something warm and so comfortable about him that she just she felt at home.
Yeah, and one of his things that he liked to say, and I think he actually said it in the song later Big Papa, about he was black, fat, and ugly, but you're still gonna want him. And that was something that everybody said about him. He was so charming. Like, all the ladies wanted him because he was so charming. There was something about him.
You could tell it in interviews that he
Yeah.
was a very charming guy.
Yeah, he was absolutely...
They actually got married. Or he proposed 2 weeks after they met.
2 weeks.
And she said that she was like, "Are you serious right now?" And that she didn't think he was joking. And he was not. So
No.
they did.
They got married, I think, on
August
8th.
4th.
August 4th?
August 4th of 1994, they got married.
Yes, a Justice of the Peace wedding.
Those are kind of the best ones, though. Simple, private, more intimate, I would say.
Yeah.
Just you and, whoever you invited, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Which is super awesome. 5 days later, his first solo success with the single Juicy/Unbelievable, and that peaked at number 27 on the Billboard charts. So
That's an excellent for his very first single. I saw with his mom talked about it. He came in all happy and he said, "Mom, Juicy went gold." And it was almost like the way that she said it made it seem like it was a, kind of like a "Remember I Told You,"
Yeah.
That I was gonna
do this.
I was gonna make money, and then here he was, and he had his first single, and it went gold.
And it went gold, and that was off of the album Ready to Die, which went on to be certified 4 times platinum.
4 times platinum.
That's
nuts.
amazing.
That's huge.
So he was really making a name for himself, and he was starting to become the guy.
And this was actually the album that kind of turned the focus from West Coast rap, because West Coast rap was super popular at the time. There wasn't necessarily that the beef that would go on to happen between West
Not
Coast,
yet.
East Coast. Not quite yet, but like East Coast rappers started becoming more
becoming more
like
prominent.
more popular after Biggie came out with
Yeah.
Ready to Die, like which is really awesome. He kind of paved the way for other East Coast rappers.
He really did. And on that album was also another pretty big song, notorious song, if you will. And that's Big Papa. Everybody
Yes.
knows Big Papa.
I love that song.
I love it too. Every time it comes on,
I was just telling-
blast it.
Right? I was just telling my husband this morning because this inspired me to really listen to some old school rap. 90s rap is
So
way
fucking good.
better than what the rap we have going on now.
And then there was another, that song went #1 on the US rap charts. And then there was another song called One More Chance, which sold 1.1 million copies. And then right around the same time that this was going on, he became friends with a West Coast rapper by the name of...
Tupac Shakur. That one I did not know, honestly.
See, I did know that because the movie they made about him later in like 2009 or something like that, they talked about that they were friends. They were actually friends.
I didn't know that they were so close, like, because they basically, like, they traveled together.
They would visit each other.
Yeah,
They would sleep on each other's couches while they were traveling, and they were friends. It was quoted by a lot of people that they were best friends.
Yeah, and it was also said that Tupac's style was a huge inspiration to Biggie. Like that was his inspiration and like one of his closest friends. Which, just considering how everything plays out, that kind of bummed
That's
me
a
out when I
little
read
sad.
it. I was like, that's really sad. Like,
He also had a funny collab, like a shout out in a song to Shaq.
oh yeah, I read that. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny. Shaq was like super honored that he mentioned him in a song and wanted to do a song with him. So there's a song called You Can't Stop the Rain. Apparently that's got a lot to do with Shaq. I don't know. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit of information.
On November the 30th of 1994, a little incident went down in a recording studio in Manhattan. Biggie and Puffy were there, but Tupac also had kind of, I guess, an appointment to record some music there. And when Tupac arrived, he was actually shot. I think it was 4 times.
It was 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times in the
And
chest.
he was like robbed of a
robbed.
bunch of jewelry.
$40,000 worth of
It's an
jewelry.
insane amount of jewelry.
And, you know, Biggie and Puffy heard what was going on and they came down. And I guess it was just seeing them in the
Made-
lobby
made
made
him
Tupac think too big of a coincidence for them to be there. And he ended up actually blaming them and saying if they didn't organize it, they at least knew it was going to happen and they didn't warn me. And so that began kind of the start of the West Coast
East Coast
East Coast
rivalry.
rivalry.
That's crazy.
That
sucks because it seemed like
Yeah.
they had, based off interviews that I saw, it seemed like they had just like such an awesome friendship. So that sucks that had to go.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I can understand like why he would be upset to see his friend there, like thinking, "Oh my God, you set me up," type thing. But like, come on, man, that's your friend, right?
Biggie was interviewed saying it was all just a coincidence, that he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and he was actually very, worried for his friend, but Tupac would come out later and flat out accuse him.
Yeah, essentially
So,
accuse him of doing it.
In August of 1995, he created a group called the Junior Mafia, and that was the Junior Masters at Finding Intelligent Attitudes,
Which included up-and-coming rappers like Lil' Kim. And then also during this time frame,
he was essentially labeled as the #1 or top-selling male solo artist on pop and R&B charts in the United States.
So he was doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, and the people who made up this Junior Mafia group that I saw, they were people he grew up with, basically. He had always said when he becomes famous, he's gonna take his crew with him, and he
was
did.
telling the
absolutely
truth.
did that.
So in September of 1995, he started working on his second album.
And another interesting little tidbit, which, you'll get to see this one battled out at a later date between me and Jessica. He worked with Michael Jackson on the song, on a project called History. And so one person said that when Biggie met Michael Jackson, like, he was almost on the verge of tears. He was so happy to be meeting Michael Jackson. But then the other person who was interviewed, and I didn't write his name down, said that he didn't trust Michael around children. Mm-hmm. So he had an issue with that.
Yep.
Because he, at the time had a young daughter.
So while Biggie was kind of working with his Junior Mafia crew and also working with other artists and, just garnering acclaim for his skills, Tupac was actually serving time in prison for sexual assault. He had allegedly raped someone. It was surprisingly the day after he got shot that he went to court. So he had to go from the hospital to court and then was put in prison. It was in April of 1995 that Tupac openly accused Biggie and Puffy of orchestrating, or at least knowing about, his being shot. Mm-hmm. And upon being released, and this was kind of like they said it was a deal with the devil, Suge Knight from...
We all know Suge Knight.
Yeah, everybody knows Suge Knight. From Death Row Records, because Tupac couldn't afford to bail himself out, so he was sitting in the prison waiting for his trial. Essentially was Suge Knight went to him and said, "You record 3 records for Death Row Records, and I'll bail you out of prison." And so he bailed him out, and Tupac signed with Suge Knight and Death Row Records. And this was something that I found kind of interesting,
And I don't know if you saw this, but
What?
I am actually...
kind of like, I would have to say, like, if I were to say who my favorite rapper is, it's definitely Snoop Dogg.
He's
Not
top.
gonna lie. But Suge Knight is suspected to have had connections to the Bloods.
Okay,
Right?
yeah, that
He was
makes
always
sense.
in red. He wore red to all of the, to the award shows and everything. But Snoop Dogg is a Crip. And you know that because of what he says in the song, Drop It Like It's Hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you know the lyrics, blue flag hanging out my backside. Only on the left side. Yeah, that's the Crip side. But they were, they were in the same rap crew. They were the West Coast.
Interesting.
I don't know much about gang dynamics, but is that allowed?
I don't know. I mean,
So I thought that was kind of interesting because, later when we talk about the conspiracies, there's a lot to do with the Bloods and the Crips and the individual deaths of these two. Suspicious. It's crazy.
on March 23rd of 1996, Mr. Biggie, who I think just I don't know, maybe he had some anger problems, pent up aggression, stuff like that.
Just had a bad day.
Maybe he had a bad day. I don't know, but
grumpy.
maybe super grumpy. Sure, we'll go with that. He was actually arrested for assaulting some fans. He chased them.
Chased them.
He threatened to kill them.
Murder, y'all.
Murder. And he broke the windows of their cab and he punched one of them. All because they asked for a photo. Now,
you know what? You got an experience. That's what I thought. I was like, you got an
didn't get
experience.
an autograph. You got an experience.
You didn't get a
people.
picture and an autograph. You got an experience.
You got an experience. You should
Which
be
is
grateful.
fucking hilarious.
So he ended up serving 100 hours of community service for that offense.
Good lord.
But yeah, so assault, that was a thing that he did. You'll see it featured. There was more assaults and stuff like that.
Yeah, he had kind of an issue with not assaulting people. Around mid-1996, he was arrested again for drugs and weapons. 'Cause he seemed to have an issue with drugs and weapons and not being involved in them. And during this time, he was still married to Faith Evans. They were separated because he kind of had a hard time staying completely faithful to his wife. He was having affairs.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Not
and,
a faithful guy.
not being too secretive about it.
So they were estranged from each other.
They were estranged from each other, yes.
But
Like she still loved him and she was still faithful to him. So it was really hard for her to find out that she had met Tupac. She was in a club and the like a promoter came up to her and said, "Hey, Tupac's here. He wants to meet you." And she's like, "Sure," because as far as she knew, that was like her husband's friend, like his old friend. And so there's a picture of them together, and then he asked her to record a song with him. And she did it, absolutely, and that was it. Except it wasn't.
Except it wasn't, because then Tupac recorded a song called Hit 'Em Up.
Uh-huh.
And where it was essentially a diss track.
Yes, it was a diss track where he said he slept with Faith Evans.
Yeah. Biggie never really responded.
No.
Kind of did in a song where he made a joke about
if Faith has twins, it'll be Tupac's. Get it? Tupac? Something like that. But he never fully, responded to the claim.
Yeah, he never did. And he actually, when asked about it much later, he said, "It's just not my style," So kind of what I have learned from researching all of this and looking into the situation is that, Tupac is a very talented rapper, but he seemed to take a lot of this stuff a little too far,
I mean, there was that rivalry.
There was the rivalry, yeah, but it seemed like, because he eventually did learn that Biggie didn't really have anything to do with him getting shot, but I don't know that he ever actually came out and said anything about it, like, "Hey, my bad." But that was kind of the thing that ignited it, and then coming out and saying, and Faith Evans was like, "I never fucking slept with him. What are you talking about? Why would you do that?" Like that same song, he's talking about how he's going to kill all of them and kill their kids and kill their moms and anybody who helps East Coast rappers, he's going to kill them.
So now we fast forward just a little bit
Just a scratch.
to September 7th of 1996. Tupac was in Las Vegas.
Yes, he was.
He had just attended I think it was a Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah, he just attended a fight. Basically, riding high, having a great time. He was with Suge Knight. They were having, a great time, basically. Partying. His girlfriend was there. There had been a previous incident with a member of the Crips. He had stolen a death row medallion that Suge Knight only gave out to his closest of the close, his inner circle. They had stolen it. They had beaten this dude up and stolen it. And the guy had seen that guy in the crowd at a casino, and
They picked a fight.
they picked a fight. They beat the shit out of him. Yes, indeed.
Now, that guy was later, he was interviewed and all of that stuff, and he, to this day, denies having any involvement in the next event.
Yes.
And that would be that they left the casino, and it was on the corner of Flamingo and, gosh, I've been to Vegas so many times, why can't I remember the street name? It was on Flamingo, where they had essentially all gotten in the car. Suge and Tupac were in the car together, and another car pulled up.
A white new model Cadillac.
Yep. And someone pulled out a gun, and they shot into the vehicle. They hit Tupac 4 times. Suge Knight was grazed in the head with a bullet. Fortunately, depending on how you feel, he was not actually shot. He was grazed. So he was rushed to the hospital, and he did eventually die 6 days later. But I did see an interview, and we'll probably go into this with more detail because, obviously we're probably going to do a Tupac video. But there was a cop who finally came forward and said he was first on the scene, and that he opened the door and Tupac fell out of the car, was covered in blood, and he asked Tupac, "Who shot you?" And with his final breath, or not his final breath, before he went unconscious, he said, "Fuck you." And I'm like, yeah, sounds about right.
Badass. Gangster.
And so naturally, who are people going to think was involved?
Right?
Biggie.
The rivalry, Biggie and Puffy. They basically thought that they had orchestrated the whole thing. But according to Faith Evans, the night that they found out that he had died, that Tupac had died, Biggie called her, and he was hysterical.
She said he was afraid.
Yeah, he was terrified because this had all gone on, it had gone way too far.
Yes.
So far. he was devastated that he had lost his friend without being able to mend it.
Yep.
Yes, so he did eventually hire security for himself because he was afraid for his life.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always been this controversy and this conspiracy that Biggie was involved. If I say my personal opinion, I don't think he was.
I don't think he was at all.
On October 29th of 1996, Faith Evans gave birth to a boy.
Baby boy.
By the name of Christopher C.J. Wallace Jr. He was ecstatic, of course.
Yeah,
This
guy he loved his kids. God, he loved his kids.
Which is super awesome. But then, interestingly enough, the next little bit of information that immediately followed that on the articles I was reading was that at that time, Lil' Kim was releasing her debut album.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was his pride and joy, blah, blah, blah. And so essentially, right after the line about Faith Evans, his wife, giving birth to his son, Chris Jr., CJ, he was cheating on his wife with Lil' Kim.
Yeah,
I thought it was
he
like,
had-
come on, bro. Like, what are you
had some
doing?
issues.
Have you ever seen Faith Evans? Beautiful.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
Lil' Kim's beautiful too.
She is, but like, how do you have a girl like Faith Evans and you cheat on her? In 1997, he was arrested for smoking weed in public.
Dude.
And his car was
I saw repossessed, but I feel like it just
repoed. I figured it
impounded.
meant impounded.
Yeah, I think that's what it meant because like, really, like he was repoed. No, he was impounded.
The person he was with was by the name of Lil Cease.
Yes.
And
Popular rapper in his own right, well known.
he they got a rental car, and I cannot remember what kind of car it was, but he was not happy with it because the car was known to have brake problems.
Oh God, yeah.
And it says that they actually crashed into a rail,
Yep.
and Biggie shattered his leg. Lil Cease, I think, broke his jaw.
Yep.
And so Biggie was in the hospital for months with this injury. Confined to a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he did lots of physical
I
therapy.
want to know,
and
like,
he had a
did
cane.
Lil Cease, like, in that moment go, fucking told you, bro?
Fucking told you, dude. Like, what the
Dude.
hell?
Because
I
I
don't
would be,
know.
like, pissed. I'd be
I'd
like, I
be
told you
mad
not to
too.
get it. I told you not to do it. And, yeah.
Now, remember when I said that he had a little bit of an anger problem and we bring up some more assaults? Well, there was an assault from 1995, I believe, that was finally resolved in January of 1997.
Yeah.
He and his entourage supposedly beat up some people, a concert promoter,
Yeah.
and there was something about robbery. But what
Basically,
I
all the
saw
charges
was
were dropped,
they
is
were all
what I saw.
dropped, but he paid him $41,000.
Yeah.
So he just like beating up people. He was a big man.
I wouldn't want to fuck with him. Like,
No.
who fucks with that? Like, 6'3", between 300 and 380 pounds.
That's big.
That's a huge dude. Like, don't fuck with that. But apparently he was, like, the biggest teddy bear also. Like, his friends back in the day would say people were so scared of him. But he was just, like, the nicest.
In February of 1997, he went to California to promote his new and upcoming album called Life After Death,
Yes.
and to record a video for a little song called Hypnotize.
Good song.
So he was doing interviews and stuff like that all over California. He did an interview on March 5th in San Francisco on the radio to promote his album.
Yeah, I think it was a show called The Doghouse.
I don't know, I didn't write it down.
Yeah, The Doghouse. And it was kind of like a, those morning talk shows. You know, I think, what's the one that happens now? Oh, I run it on my station. Shoot, I don't remember it. I'll pop it in if I can find it. I run it on one of my stations, actually. Breakfast Club.
So he went on there to promote, and he was doing his music video. So he was all over California trying to promote his album. He did state in that interview that he did hire security because he was concerned about his personal safety.
Yeah. Not because of the feud, not because of the East Coast, West Coast rivalry, none of that. Just because of just generally being a celebrity. And maybe that's a good idea, because he did he did beat up some fans.
I mean, people would approach him, and I'm not entirely sure if they were, like, antagonizing him or provoking him or anything like that. But, you know,
Maybe they were.
we were discussing this actually also with Chris earlier in the fact that people just do that. They,
Yeah.
like, will see a freaking MMA fighter on the street, and they will try to fight him. Yeah, fight me. So, we're not sure.
Not entirely sure. I'm sure that the people, you shouldn't have hit him, but they probably weren't entirely innocent. I'm sure they weren't
Oh,
gracious
no.
when being told, like, no, man, for,
No.
like an autograph or
No,
something.
because most people aren't. We were also talking about this other rapper. I cannot remember who it was.
for the life of me whose security guard recently got beat up because he wouldn't take pictures with fans.
Like-
after he'd been traveling internationally all day. Like, you are not entitled to a photo. They are not obligated to give you a photo or an autograph. And it is not up to us to invade celebrity space for the sake of the fact that they are celebrities. It's not fair.
They're entitled to.
They are entitled to their privacy and they are entitled to their space.
Yep. March 8th,
Soul Train Awards.
the Soul Train Awards. He presented an award with, I think it said, what's her name? She's, Toni
He
Braxton.
presented it to Toni Braxton.
Did he present it to or with? Because I thought I saw with, but
I saw
he presented
to.
it to Toni Braxton. And afterwards he attended
the after party.
The after party
at
at
the
the-
Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles.
which was like a crazy party. There were all kinds of celebrities there. Aaliyah was there. All kinds of famous people in hip hop were there, of course. There were also members of the Bloods and the Crips there,
Yeah.
which I found interesting, just based off of what I personally believe happened.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, essentially what happened was at the after party, it got too crowded.
Got too
So
crowded. The
crowd
outside waiting was getting too rowdy. They had a fire marshal inside, but for some reason he waited until after things were starting to get really out of control to finally shut it down because it
Yes.
was basically violating the law, the size of this party.
So right around 12:30
a.m. on March 9th.
the party finally got shut down.
The party got shut down, and Biggie and Puffy were actually like, they were already ready to leave anyway.
Yes.
And
so
I saw an interesting thing that I thought,
What?
as they left, because they had hired, security at this point. As they left, they were approached by a group of Crips, and security intervened, and Biggie said, no, it's cool. And rumor has it that one of these people was the one who was in the casino for Tupac. But, rumors. And, gave Biggie a hug and everything, and they chatted for a couple minutes, and then, Puffy and Biggie were on their way.
Yep. So they got into two separate vehicles, GMC Suburbans, black GMC Suburbans.
Yes, indeed.
And they left the parking structure of the Peterson Automotive Museum. They made it about 50 feet to the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire.
This was
Wilshire.
an extremely crowded area,
An
too. It took them 15 minutes to get 50 feet. That's
Yes.
how bad the traffic was.
So at that point, they're stopped at the light.
they were the first vehicle, I think that was Puffy's vehicle, made it through the light, and then Biggie got stuck at the red light.
Yes.
He was sitting in the front passenger seat.
And a black Impala pulled up. and
I
it
saw
is-
green, actually. Green or dark colored. Could be black or green.
maybe.
Yes.
Pulled up, and the man in the driver's seat, which was described as a black male wearing a blue suit and tie, pulled a 9mm pistol and shot into the vehicle, hitting Biggie 4 times.
Yeah.
He was the only one inside the vehicle that was actually shot.
Yes.
No one else
said
was
he
hit.
fired like 9 times.
Yes, and he hit Biggie 4. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in LA, where at 1:15 in the morning he was pronounced dead.
But it was very likely that he died within moments of being shot.
Yes.
The bullet went through, one of the bullets went through his lungs and into his heart.
Yes.
So he very likely was not alive.
I saw an interview with Puffy saying that he got out of his car and he ran to him. Got out, ran, and he was trying to get him out of the car, trying to get him up and at it, and he couldn't get him up. He was just slumped over and would not move.
Yeah.
So more than likely he was probably dead, but he was officially pronounced dead on March 9th at 1:15 a.m.
His funeral was held in Brooklyn, and basically the streets were lined with fans. Like, it was an enormous turnout. And then somebody turned on Hypnotize loudly, and it basically turned into a massive party in the streets of Brooklyn, and then eventually turned into a riot, basically.
Why does that not surprise me at all?
People were in mourning, essentially. They were You know, and it seems weird. I didn't realize like how much that could affect me just seeing the impact on his life. But I literally got like goosebumps seeing the people react to him, to Hypnotize being played so loudly. Like people were like just started screaming and cheering, and I just kind of got like goosebumps. I was like, holy shit! Like he had such a huge impact on these people.
He did. There were 350 people actually in attendance at his museum.
Yeah.
At his museum. At his funeral. Faith Evans was naturally devastated.
Of course, that was, you know, her husband, father of her child. She had just recently, like, given birth to their son. I don't even think he was only a few months old. Oh my gosh.
16 days after his death, Life After Death, the album that he was promoting, was officially released as planned. And it went certified diamond, which is the highest award. So it was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 200. It was just everywhere. Naturally is a huge hit. It's tragic that things like that happen when someone passes away, but it's a given.
That with things like Aaliyah and Selena, like when they pass, fans all flock to support.
Exactly, and it happens every time a celebrity passes, so it's natural. It also led to the single that Puff Daddy released, or Diddy released with Faith Evans, called "I'll Be Missing You."
Did you see the video of them performing that with Sting?
No.
At the award show, like Sting sang like his original chorus while Faith Evans sang the "I'll Be Missing You." It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful, and they had like an entire choir.
That song will get an emotional reaction out of me.
I actually, I listened to it the other day. It came on in the car, and I listened to it as I was driving, and I just kind of found myself, and this is one reason why I really wanted to do this one, is I found myself like starting to cry. Because like you can hear in her voice, she just feels
she's
like
so
she's so devastated by this. There's such a powerful emotion behind her voice.
Absolutely. He was later called, if you look at anyone's like top 10, he's on it for as far as rap goes. He was later called the savior of East Coast hip hop and rap. He was named top 3 on MTV's Greatest Rappers of All Time. They said that he was easily the most skillful on the mic. In 2015, Billboard named him the greatest rapper of all time.
I believe it. He was so fucking talented. Like even just watching from when he was a kid doing those rap battles on the street,
Yeah.
like where would rap be now?
If nothing had happened, if he was still alive, where would rap be?
If he and Tupac were still alive.
Yeah, where would he be? Where would rap be? It's all there. There's also a Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation that hosts the B.I.G. Night Out or Big Night Out, and it helps to raise funds to buy equipment for children's schools. And in this, the B.I.G. stands for books instead of guns. And in 2009, a movie was released called Notorious, and his son played him as a child. So CJ played him when he was a kid, and then the actor, whose name is Jamal Woolard, perfect choice to play him. I can remember watching that movie, and I thought he was amazing in that role.
His mom did eventually file suit against the LAPD and the city of Los Angeles because, and we'll get into the conspiracy theories in just a second, but she did eventually file suit against them to basically, wrongful death. And it dragged out for a really long time. It eventually became known as like the most contentious and longest running celebrity court battle, basically. And it was basically dropped after, I think it was in 2010, it was dropped and revealed that she was seeking $500 million, which was basically the estimated that he would earn over the course of his life. And she didn't win, unfortunately, because they couldn't prove anything, So,
And
Hi guys, make sure to like and subscribe.
so there are so many conspiracies surrounding how he died and who was involved. I know what I think is the most believable.
I think we're on the same page about what we believe. Okay, so first, I'm going to start off with Tupac's death, because that was kind of, I think, the catalyst for Biggie Smalls' death. I believe, as I had mentioned before, he had gotten into a fight with that Crip. Okay? I believe that Tupac was killed by the Crips. I just believe that's what happened. It happened a few hours before he was shot that he got into this fight. I think that's what happened. Now, the suspicion is that that Crip was planted there because he was a friend and a known associate at the time, which he does deny to this day, of Sean Puff Daddy Combs. So he was planted there, and Puffy arranged for the shooting, is kind of what I think happened, maybe, allegedly. But I believe then that Suge Knight
Killed Biggie.
killed Biggie. Had him killed for revenge, basically.
As a retaliation.
Yeah.
That is what I believe. There are all kinds of conspiracies, and then of course there's naturally the thing. He's still alive.
I mean, like, honestly, I've seen some of the things that they show, and I'm sure that it's Photoshop, but I'm like, man.
The dude that's supposed to be Tupac?
Yeah.
Bro.
That looks exactly like
Looks
him.
just like him.
If I can find a picture of one of the suspected photos of him, I'm gonna pop it up, because that looks exactly like him. And I'm like, girl?
I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I believe. I think Suge Knight had something to do with it. We've seen that man murder somebody.
Y'all know that, right? Like, he ran them over with his car.
There was a camera. It was on camera.
Film. He ran them over with his car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's actually, like, in prison for life now
He
because
is.
of that. Like, he's not getting out. And, I mean, you know, probably good, because you ran somebody over with your car, dude.
Yeah, not
Like,
cool.
that's not nice.
Not nice. So that's what I believe probably happened. I think that's the most logical answer. People are saying that there was a cover-up. There was like this whole video I watched, it was on BuzzFeed, about them investigating it, and supposedly it was cops because one of the cops had a car that looked just like the car.
But Impalas were some of the most popular
Yeah.
cars that year in the LA area.
But also the type of ammo that was found in Biggie was very rare, and they were able to trace it to 2 locations, one like across the United States and then one in that cop's house.
dude.
And then that cop was a known associate of Suge Knight. He was on Death Row's payroll, and he was friends with a hitman who, when
that Amir
they
guy?
did,
Yeah.
yes, they did a sketch of the supposed killer that he looked just like him. And then witnesses came forward and they had said he was identified, essentially. He was ID'd as the shooter. They picked him out of a lineup.
Yeah, I did see that, but see, so I saw something that kind of blows a little bit of a hole in all of that. The whole, like, they saw, that ammo, they could only trace it to 2 locations in the whole of the United States. It was more like a dozen, or like 2 dozen.
Still, like
in
how...
the city of Los Angeles.
Oh. Well, there that one goes.
Yeah, like, it was sold in like 2 dozen stores in the city of Los Angeles. It wasn't as rare as people are trying to make it out to be. And I think... I don't know, I just, like, I don't really buy that the cops were, like...
Then why didn't they investigate for 30 days? And why, when somebody came forward and said that they saw the cop and the cop was on the payroll and the assassin's cooler, the cops were like, we're not going that direction.
Well, see, I think that they just didn't care.
It still ties into Suge.
Well, yeah, I mean, it still ties into Suge, but I just, honestly, I think, like, the cops didn't care that these rapper gangsters were killing each other. I just don't think that they cared, and that's why they didn't investigate. That's why they didn't do a good job. They just didn't give a shit that these 2 black men had been murdered. That's what I think. That's what I think. I don't know, maybe they weren't necessarily, you know, crooked cops, but they were fucking negligent at best.
It took 30 days for homicide and robbery to get involved.
In both cases, it took forever for them to fucking get involved. And this is a murder. And I'm just like, no, I don't think they cared. I don't think that they cared.
I don't think they did either.
So that could just have everything to do with it. It could just be racism.
It could just be that.
But
That
yeah,
seems like a
but
pretty plausible
Puffy and
answer.
Sugar, in my opinion,
They're involved.
I believe they are involved. Am I 100% correct? Do I know this for a fact? No, I do not. I just believe that seems like the simplest answer is the most fucking logical, and the most logical is Suge Knight arranged this shit.
Yes. Agreed.
Word.
And be careful if you decide to research this, because you will find yourself going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, to include aliens.
I hope
or
they're both
something.
alive, though. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be so
like,
fucking
maybe they're
cool.
fucking, like, on a
They just, like, pop up randomly one day and
they
they're
just
like,
come out
oh,
and they're
hey,
like,
guys.
hey, by the way, we're here. And the world would lose their ever-loving fucking mind.
Yeah,
and
they
the rap world would explode.
It would be amazing. So, there you have it. That was our video. Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, aka
Notorious B.I.G.
So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this True Hollywood Thursday. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button down below.
Click.
If you haven't done so already, And we will see you guys very, very soon.
Very, very soon.
In the next one, guys.
In the next one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.